From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy-watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya, it's episode 72, and we're talking about the science fiction comedy film Don't Look Up. It came out.
Don't look up.
Or look up.
Look up. Just look up.
Hashtag look up. Hashtag don't look up.
Hashtag don't look up.
In this episode, we'll reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of the narrative and the film language, plus a nice deep dive into a specific piece of science that the filmmakers are proposing. Don't Look Up was directed by Adam McKay, who also wrote this film based on a story, that him and David Serrata came up with together. I didn't really quite word that properly. Sorry. Apologies to Adam McKay and David Serrata. You know, sriracha sauce.
Oh, he's a bit spicy, this one.
Spicy, David.
Yeah, so turn back now if you haven't seen this film, because we're going to get into all the spoilers. This is your warning.
We're going deep, so warning.
Warning.
This film is about a couple of low-level astronomers who discover a massive comet that's going to cause extinction level event here on Earth. And they have to go on basically a media circuit event, as we do in modern society, to try to convince us that we should pay attention to this end of the world doomsday comet. And what does society do, Surrey? We kind of ignore it.
No, we take perfect attention, we set up life ships for everyone, and then we send up a drilling team to go up and that's those other films that they take it seriously.
That's right. So this film took a bit of a comedy approach to the idea that, the humans kind of don't really care, we're a bit selfish or a bit ignorant to this actual doomsday event.
A frighteningly realistic approach at the moment.
It is.
It's a pretty sharp film, and right now, I think.
I think because of COVID, I found that this film, it's like, is it sort of about COVID? A lot of people online are talking that it's the way we're reacting about climate change, that we're not reacting enough. But I think you could really take the metaphor of this story in so many different ways of how we respond to things. Do we just stick our head in the sand, Surrey, or do we actually want to change for the better? So what was your number one takeaway from Don't Look Up?
My number one takeaway from Don't Look Up is sometimes it's not good to have a celestial body named after you.
No, that's right.
Because normally when you discover a comet like
Doomsday.
Halley, you go, oh, look, there's Halley's Comet. Isn't that cool? People get to see it. Once in a lifetime event. Turns out the Debensky, Debasky comet
Debasky
is also a once in a lifetime event.
It is.
So sometimes you don't want your name associated with it.
And they kind of make a little joke about that in the scene, don't they?
And this is kind of the thing also about that COVID came up with, because of course there's this desire to call it the China virus. And previously we've had this people referring to the Spanish flu, which of course was entirely unfair because the flu did not come from Spain. It's just that's where the soldiers flew out of or shipped out of from.
Yeah,
they coming back from World War II out of the trenches and out of Europe and so forth, through Spain and out of the port of Spain to go back home to America. So the flu has nothing to do with Spain,
but
it's called the Spanish flu, and as a result there was a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And now there's this...
Fair enough.
They've learned from that and went, oh, well, we won't call this, the China virus or the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome because, people will manipulate that and use that to push their agenda. And, of course, the people who did call it the China virus, they're trying to say, yeah, but that's where it came from, right?
Yeah.
We all know why they wanted to call it the China virus, and it had nothing to do with facts.
No.
It had nothing to do with that. It had entirely to do with their own skewed ideologies, whatever that may be. It sort of means then that, of course, even people who want to try to remain unbiased will have in their head the Dabansky comment is going to kill us. Oh, there's Kate Dabansky. She just like you kind of. I'm pretty sure that even as much as you want to fight that bias, you're still going to feel a little bit of tension. So, my number one takeaway: don't rush to get your name on a celestial object until you're sure it's not going to hit Earth.
And I don't think it was just on that. I don't think it was like a deep theme of this film, but it was interesting, wasn't it, that her progression, Jennifer Lawrence plays Kate Dabansky, like, so she found it, and it kind of almost like her narrative arc was she found it, Mindy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, confirmed it. Then when they started to get some progression from it, she was seen as much more irrational and crazy, which is kind of and hysterical, which is quite often put on to women. Yeah, and then she withdrew from it all, and he started getting the attention, like it was like his thing.
Yes.
And he was becoming the prominent scientist, and he got promoted. She was bagged out by another man, like in power, the head of, was it the head of Chief, the chief,
secretary,
yeah, or something, whatever it is, right? The Jonah Hill character.
Yeah, wasn't he good at that?
He was terrific. But like, yeah, so it's like, and then she even just like totally withdrew from the whole thing. And like, I don't think it's like a major theme in this film, but it is sort of that male, female, how people perceive it a little bit as well. So not only was her name on the comet, which then was quite negative, then as a female, they portrayed that sort of negative stereotype being played out.
Shrew,
yeah. But again, in the context of the actual story as an audience, we were kind of more like, yeah, why aren't these people listening to her? I was. I mean, this is the kind of film that you're almost screaming at the television, like when you watch a sporting match and no one can hear you and no one's listening to you because you're screaming at a TV. You're like, this is what this film does. Like, this film makes you want to go, oh my God, like, why aren't they listening to these people?
And that's why this is such a great allusion to all of those other scientific facts, which should
like climate change, we should
to action.
I know.
But for some reason, people will come up with all manner of reasons. And it's just in this as well, people started using the whole comet and everything for their own personal agenda without any desire to actually fix it.
Yeah.
You know, there was the... at one point they quote 23% of people don't even believe the comet's real. That's right. Which is an end result, I guess, though, of the fact then you had that, you know, the conservative side saying, oh, the liberals are going to try and scare you into doing things, and you feel like it wouldn't bother me except it's real. This is really what people do, and then of course you've got the other people going, oh, you should, you know, take these particular actions and go shopping or something because of the comet, you know, and you're kind of going.
And later in the narrative, how it becomes about, you know, Bash's idea, and like her parents, Dabansky's parents, go, no politics in this house. We're on the side of jobs. Yes. Like that's extremely. I mean, so you can really see that as extreme connection to climate change, right? Like it's the same thing. Like we have it in Australia majorly with climate change because we're a massive. We've got massive investments in coal still. And, you know, even our prime ministers over the last 10 years, when the rest of the, you know, parts of the world are really modifying their energy consumption, even in Australia, we still have high prominent political figures going, yeah, but think of the jobs. Don't, you know, and that's always the old argument, isn't it? It's like, oh, but, you know, if you shut down that coal mine, you're going to lose 500 jobs. You know
what gets me about that, though, is... And COVID has demonstrated this.
Yeah.
If we shut down that coal mine and we lost X jobs, how about what we just do is pay those people? Because if the government says, yeah, we're going to shut all that down, what about our jobs? We'll just pay you.
Yeah. A wage.
Until you
get a new job.
Find something else.
Yeah.
And if that takes 50 years, okay, whatever.
Yeah, we'll pay you for 50 years.
Like, done.
Yeah.
Like, why is that a problem? That's not a problem. Because then, of course, people go, who's going to pay for that? Well, you know, that's what we do as a society. We pull together and we help out, and we want...
But it's not that much...
We want a planet that is healthy and good, and we want to lead the way and build our technology because, you know what, we're not going to win through manufacturing.
Yeah.
But this is exactly the point. That sort of discussion is fueled not by basic fact. It's fueled by a desire to avoid some fear or push some agenda. And my agenda is more science fiction. I'm really sad, in fact, that the real science fiction solution to this didn't work out. Because, quite frankly, I'm all for the massively science fiction solutions.
Yeah,
but anyway.
we'll get to that later, eh?
Okay, so is this hope, warning, or experiment?
I think we're going to go back to our warning, sorry, because this is a complete warning of a film. And it's a warning on multiple levels. I think you can really break it down to maybe as humans, do we want to really fix problems in our lives? Do we just put our head in the sand? I mean, how many people have problems, whether it's like they eat too much, they drink too much, maybe they have relationship problems, and instead of actually doing the work to fix it, we just put our head in the sand and sort of keep doing what we always did. That old Albert Einstein quote of, the definition of insanity is just doing the same thing over and over and over. And I think we're all probably guilty of that for some aspect in my life. I'm going to admit, I'm guilty. There's things I've done in different aspects of my life, at different times in my life, with my children, pre-children, that you kind of repeated negative behavior, and it really took, and still does, you're never going to fix yourself completely, but there's still moments that you go, I'm just going to put my head in the sand.
Yeah.
Basically, the old cartoon, put your head in the sandpit, the old ostrich, or here in Australia, the emu. And I think, so this film is like the perfect example. Like, there's a ticking time bomb. In 6 months, a comet hits the planet. What are we going to do about it? And this film just really shows, I think, such a realistic point of view of how we would deal with it, how the politics plays out. This is obviously very American, and the whole time I was like, okay, in Australia we would probably react a bit differently, but I really saw, I think, so much similarities with COVID, and how our politicians,
the language would be different, but the outcome would be similar.
And I mean, we'll get to this, but that great scene where they first tell the President Orlean, played by Meryl Streep, and Jonah Hill playing Jason Orlean, and you've got you've actually got this chief scientist from NASA, and you've also got other people, that are already saying that the statistics are right, and straight away they're not really even acknowledging it. And that's the whole, they start, both Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio start going, okay, what are we saying? And it's a really interesting seeing that one, and we'll come to it in a moment, but they sort of spit over their words, and I think as an audience, just tell them what it means. And then when they actually say it, Jennifer Lawrence says it, then they start denying it and start thinking, okay, well, when's it? Can't be 100%. They sort of
poke 70%,
and I think, again, this is what I mean by the COVID reaction. It's the same here in Australia. We've had especially our Prime Minister probably react in a very similar way. It's different language than this, but it's the same tone, the same message is there, and the same way of dealing with these things. It's and it is alarmist. And I've got to say, and I'd love anyone out there that listens to us and you've watched this film, and hopefully you have. Obviously, don't keep listening to us because we're just going to talk about every aspect of this film. Make sure you go watch this film. But I'd love to hear, did you actually just laugh your butt off during this film? Because I couldn't laugh really. I was finding moments of this film funny, but I also was not laughing because I just felt like it's very true
and
cringy. It was almost like cringy, it's that cringy humor.
I have to say, Jonah Hill made me laugh.
Yeah.
Most of his lines were just they're just quickly spoken, quietly done, but just little comments like good effort getting dressed up for this. As a comment to Jennifer Lawrence's character, and then always he said, the Molly's just kicking in. That's a great time.
When the rocket was going. I mean, he was funny. He was funny, but the scenario, when they go to the TV show, wasn't that like Koshy? You know what I mean? That's what Koshy would be like. People like a scientist talking to Koshy that a meteor is coming to destroy the whole planet, and that's what Koshy would be like.
So exploding stars. Yes. That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's right. It was take it seriously. Anyway, so I just see it as a warning. So what was your first impression, from the film?
Well, when I started watching this, I felt a deep set of anxiety, a feeling, because, okay, so they discovered that this comet's going to hit. I went, yep, fine. And then they're in there talking to the president. They do the whole jump on the first military thing. They're just the only people in this cargo, like a typical, fast-paced action rush to the president. And then they're waiting in the room, and they're discussing this Supreme Court nominee and the marshal of the I don't know what it is the police person, whoever. Goodness knows what the job is.
It doesn't make any sense to us in Australia.
Yeah,
if you're an American listener, let us know what it means.
They're worried about the fact that he posed nude in an art thing. I was like, I don't even care. I mean, our Prime Minister still holds the Guinness World Record for fastest chug of a beer yard glass. I mean, so it's like, if they also posed nude for an art class, I mean, well, that's kind of cool, actually. But anyway, but there's all this distraction, and then while they're sitting there, it goes, oh, these two pop stars broke up. And you're sort of like, are you like so? I mean, I don't care in the best of times whether who Jennifer Aniston. Oh, you can show my age now. Jennifer Aniston,
and Brad Pitt,
all this sort of thing. Angelina Jolie. I didn't even know who the current concerning couples are. Kanye and Kim or something like.
I think they're too old now.
Yeah, like. That it's of such low importance to the world, but people love to talk about it.
They do.
And when they were having that scene, the anxiety I was having.
I know.
And then they're sitting in there talking to the president, and the president's like, "Yeah, so what's this? You discovered a comet? That's pretty cool." And he's like, "It's going to crash in the earth." And he's, let's call it 70%. You go, ugh. And Leo's doing such a good job, like clutching his little book, and Jennifer's sort of twitching in her chair, and I felt the whole same thing as well. I was like, just stop being so flippant
and just say it.
Listen to these people. But I knew, of course, I wouldn't, because that's the whole point of the film.
And I mean, that's the interesting, look, let's just put a pin in what Surrey said there, and also sidekick to, if you're writing a film or you're making a film or a book, there is that saying, the same but different. And what that means is that we've had lots of films like this film. Think about it. Armageddon, Deep Impact, big 90s blockbusters came out at a very similar time. We probably need to look at those films at some point in Spacebrains. And we will. And there's been other films like this, Doomsday Stories, right? So the same but different means that as a filmmaker or a scriptwriter or a novelist, you are going, okay, an end of the world film is cool, right? Like a meteor. We've already done that.
We've done the rescue and the efforts,
What's the same story but different? And so Adam McKay has come along and gone, well, what about if instead of, the action story of Bruce Willis going up and drilling the meteorite and blowing it up and saving the day, what if it's like the scientists come along to say the story and no one pays any attention to it? Like, that's the what if, right? And that's the point of difference. So this film has been done before, but not in this way. Before, it's been done as in, the terror of the end of the world, the comet's coming, but we all pay attention to it, and the American government come up with a great plan to solve the day, or the world comes together, don't they?
Yes.
Independence Day, we all got to come together. We're no longer it's Independence Day for America, it's Independence Day for the world, that great speech by Bill Pullman. But instead,
the rest of the world going,
nah, we don't want Independence Day. But anyway, like in this context, it's the opposite. It's like, what would it really be like? And what if those scientists had to sell it to the media, And so I thought this is a really great example. Like at the end of this as well, separately, for those of you that want to write a film, this is a really cool example. Go out and watch Deep Impact, Armageddon, Independence Day, really big blockbusters. There's a whole bunch of other doomsday films. And then watch this one and you will see how a writer has taken the same idea, the same concept, and then spun it on its head. All right, still the same thing, but he's taken the same concept and then written it from a different point of view. And it's very. This film has thoroughly impressed me. This one.
And how did it make you feel?
Oh, the whole time anxious, terrified that this is way too close to home. And like I was saying before, I'd love to know, like, were you laughing? You were laughing at Jonah Hill.
I said when Jonah Hill would like, say that.
But were you laughing? Because there was comedy in other bits.
Oh, yeah. Well,
like, what about the Jennifer Lawrence? Wasn't it funny, the Jennifer Lawrence story, how, like you said, they were waiting at the White House and the guy charged them for the crackers, right? But that's not the funny bit. The funny bit, actually, is that she keeps bringing it back up. She
can't figure out.
Like, she's like, why would he works at the Pentagon. And, like, no one answers her questions. It's just her ranting. And then at the end, when she's with her boyfriend, she, like, she tells the story. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, he doesn't even really care.
See, that's... Like, it's kind of a B story and it's maybe a C story to this.
At least.
It's following this theme of why is this person acting in a way that seems so difficult to fathom?
Yeah.
Like, why did he charge him? Like, not a small amount either.
No, $10
each. And like, and the other guy, he didn't have change, so he took us $50 from him. So you got $70.
Yeah. For free crackers.
And then he didn't even mention, like, he wasn't apologetic. And so again, that is that underlying of, our society is such that there will be people that will just act in seemingly unknowable ways.
And even Jonah Hill, right? Like, I mean, what he says is like that. Like in another movie, a Seth Rogen comedy, whatever, like it's funny. Like, and Adam McKay made Anchorman and The Other Guys and Step Brothers, like a lot of those kind of comedies. You could put Jonah Hill saying these lines in those films and it'd be like, oh, that's really funny. But also, like, he's basically just a dick to Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh,
like all those comments are funny, but he's also just an asshole to her the whole time. And no one stops him. No one, like, pulls him up or anything, right? Like, they just allow him to be a dick to her. And he is. He's just, like, pretty much awful to her. Like, the whole film. Like, he never stops being awful to her. So it is a funny thing. So, yeah, I felt anxious and terrified and I kind of loved it. But I loved what Adam McKay did in this because I was having that reaction the whole time. And I'll come back to it a bit later, but you notice that we had these moments in the film and then there was those cut to what is very traditional in a documentary B-roll. So it was like when we were having some of these scenes end, he cut to ants, hippopotamuses, a tribal man really canoeing.
Depending on the scene, it would cut to, for example, when it was the scientists trying to do things, it was all of that natural world type stuff. Then when it was the bash life...
Yep.
bash life. I mean...
Yeah, I know.
No one proofread that and went, do you really want to call this the bash life?
Yeah.
But then it was scenes of cities and consumption and technology, robots and that sort of thing. And so it was kind of doing... a bit of a contrasty thing, or priming, what do you call it? The, neurological priming to get you to sort of thinking along certain ways. And I don't think it was showing that the natural life and it was the good and the other side was the bad.
No.
It was just saying these are two sides of the same planet.
Yeah.
Because they weren't bad scenes. They was just scenes like, of a set of traffic intersection.
It was everyday life, I thought. That's kind of how I looked at it.
And people refilling their cars and then like a baby crying and then someone eating a pizza or something.
I think to me it was like those moments were pauses and reflections for the audience to realize that if we don't do anything, this is what we lose. Because when they had that scene with the president, I think that was the first time after that cut and it was like a beautiful hummingbird really close up doing its thing, and then I think maybe maybe the ocean or something, and then it was like a forest with an ant, like what, and so I think it felt like by not doing anything, you're not just destroying the human race, you're destroying all of this. And then later it was similar, like when it did the bash thing, and it was the arguments of that. It was like cut to, you're right. Like it wasn't saying humanity was bad. It wasn't showing us pollution. It was just showing us like a huge, intersection of buildings and people crossing the street and a baby, like, a brand new baby crying. It's like, again, if you do nothing, this is what we're losing, But it was great reflection moments to me. So yeah, I loved the viewing experience. I wanted this film to continue, you know, like, and that's a really good thing. Like it kept pulling me along. So that was really cool. So had you seen this film before, Surrey?
No, I've heard a few things about it, people talking about it, some people saying that they didn't like it. I can see it as a polarizing film.
Yeah.
Some people would say, yeah, no, this is just irritating.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling of anxiety throughout. Like, I've read someone was saying it was a movie, it was pissing me off because it's like the filmmakers assumed that the whole world had become totally stupid. Yeah. Except I was sort of going, I think you're in denial.
Yeah.
Because I think they kind of hammed it up a little bit, but it didn't feel totally unnatural.
No.
Like, you could see those sorts of things occurring.
It's actually not saying the whole world is stupid. It's just actually saying the people in power are stupid in a way. Like,
well, yeah, they can,
the media, like the way the media
they want to stay in power.
Yeah.
And,
they're going to influence the narrative. And like I said, like that show that he goes on, to me, I could see Koshi it'd be the same.
The morning bite,
like that kind of morning show, and you're trying to like sell them that the world's going to end, you know?
Yeah, because I've seen it occasionally. I basically don't watch TV anymore because of these things.
I don't watch
streaming services only because I can do it on demand.
Hashtag Netflix if you're out there and you want to sponsor Spacebrains.
Yeah. Joking, but not joking.
Not joking, but not joking. Hashtag.
Urge everyone else listening to this podcast, just stop watching TV. Because...
Apart from the streaming services like Netflix.
Well, that's not TV. I'm doing commercial television because, Netflix isn't selling you out to commercials.
No, they're selling you out to Netflix.
They're just gluing your eyes to Netflix for money, which is what I want. I want to pay them money to get things in my eyeballs, not pay them my attention so they can cram garbage into me. You know, like this. I want to pay for my garbage, is what I'm saying.
I want to pay for them to cram more films like this film into my eyeballs.
Yes, because I can choose.
I'm happy with that.
I can choose the consumption of garbage I get. Yeah. So anyway, tell me, did you have a favourite scene?
That president scene at the start is pretty powerful, isn't it? I think it's also like that there's a really magical moment later in the film when the comet is actually in the sky and they sort of spot it. And so Leo, Dr. Mindy, pulls over and he like spots it in his car, and it intercuts with Kate Dabasky as well, and she's noticing it where she is, and he pulls up and people are tooting, because he's just stopped in the middle of the road and he's like, there it is. And then people really notice it.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot as well, that as humans, and I think this is probably where the metaphor to climate change comes into play, because we can't necessarily see climate change, what the scientists are talking about climate change. And so it's all theoretical, and it would be the same here, like, a comet is coming to a comet is coming to Earth in 6 months, and everyone's like, yeah, but I can't see it.
Yeah, but is it?
Like really? Or is it going to miss us? Like, did you do the maths right? Is something... Normally, this doesn't really happen. Like who... we need to see it. And I think that was a cool scene in this film, that he pulls over, he starts screaming up to everyone, there it actually is. I told you. And people actually get out of their cars and they kind of look. And there's a bit of a magical moment there that the reality sinks in, that here it is. Like, it's actually there in the sky. We can really see it.
It becomes a significant movement.
Yeah. And likewise, I think about 10 minutes later in the film, Jonah Hill and the president are trying to do a real speech to rednecks, and like one of the rednecks looks up and goes, hey, they lied to us, because it actually is there, because they were hashtagging don't look up, like don't look up at the sky. But anyway, like he suddenly realizes a couple of months after this realization that actually it is in the sky, and so that's kind of the irony of, we need to see it, and more so for people to believe it.
Isn't that funny that just the black and white opposites, and we have that in Australian politics too, that the opposition party, not always, but we go through phases where the leadership party says black and the opposition will come out with something that says white.
Yeah.
Only if it would be utterly ridiculous for them to say the opposite. In which case they say, yes, but we would have done better.
Yeah.
And it
Well, they
doesn't-
say they should have done better.
Yeah,
they should have done better.
There's never sort of that, no, you're right. Actually, that was a good job you guys did.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I think we also would have done a good job, but you handled it.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
And I think a bit of honesty like that would be nice.
Yes, it would.
And it would also be nice if the leadership every now and then was sort of go, you know what? We should have actually done what they said. Like, perhaps we're going to do better next time.
Yeah.
But no.
But no, you're not going to get that.
But
so
indeed, here you just get that look up, don't look, like the opposite, don't look, as opposed
Don't
to
look up.
It's not important. It's they don't come up with anything else.
No.
They just say just the opposite.
Yeah. Just don't look up. Don't listen to them.
Yes.
So why Surrey is this a science fiction? I mean, it's a comet in space. There's a lot of maths. There's stupid politicians reacting in stupid ways. To me, that seems like the real world. How is this film a sci-fi?
I always fall back to that same things. If we took out the comet and the maths and the science part, you wouldn't have any story here, because the whole crux of this, the whole satire, really is that there's this verifiable, measurable, repeatable, peer-reviewed and confirmed fact. And that's put into place, and then the circus that goes on around it. Like, people start pulling this fact left, right. There are people who think, yes, it's coming, but it'll be good for us, because it'll miss, but it'll actually do something wonderful. It's a spiritual awakening. Oh no, it's not even real. And, it's just, you need to have, because if you had something that was a bit more mystical, let's call it the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
I get, sure, that is totally open to interpretation, because you got some cult member saying Jesus is coming.
Yeah.
And it's not a verifiable thing. You can't go out and look at it. But this thing here, you could just go grab a telescope, look up at that spot of the sky and see the comet. You could measure it over a course of a couple of days, do your own calculations, and in fact see that it's going to hit.
Coming.
And they said, NASA did it, and the president got some, Ivy League people, because apparently their maths is better, or different somehow, but they confirmed it.
Yeah.
And so the science in this is pivotal to the satire and to the drama and tension. Without having an empirical scientific basis, you wouldn't be able to have this humor.
Fair enough.
The movie itself would there would be nothing.
Yeah, it would fold.
Because what would you be trying to convince? You'd be trying to convince the president that, Tom Cruise is actually getting back with Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, right.
And this is a major thing. And then it is. It's like, oh, does that mean he's left Scientology? Oh, whoa, this is a scandal. But it doesn't have the gravitas, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Because nobody cares.
Yes.
And if it's true or if it's false, it ultimately means nothing. But comet hitting the Earth, true or false, that's meaningful.
Yeah. And it's an interesting conundrum, the old comet coming to planet Earth, isn't it? Because it's something that is an out there fear of us, because, this...
It's happened before.
It's happened before. We do get hit by comets anyway, daily or whatever it is. But, to have something that might be huge... they did refer to, Jennifer Lawrence did say at some point early, this is a comet that's bigger than that wiped out the dinosaurs. So that kind of classic analogy. And so that's based on the science. And then then in films like this, because it's the same in Deep Impact, it's the same in Armageddon, it's like, well, then the fiction part also comes in, because it's like how we would possibly deal with it.
Yeah.
And so in this film, there's the kind of same idea of Armageddon. Let's send up a astronaut and nuclear bombs and kind of just deflect it, which I think you've even spoken about previously on Spacebrains. Like, that's a legitimate
there is
plan.
a space
Like
defense,
they have a defense plan,
as it shows in the start of the film. It's like, but there actually is a planetary defense force. Yeah. Basically.
Which doesn't seem to have any power, does it? Because he makes the argument the president is not interested.
Yeah.
But then also the fiction comes in deeper with Bash's sort of plan of drones and breaking up the meteor with all these little separate drones and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of like pretty cool as well. So what about any recent sci-fi or creative projects for Surrey?
For Surrey has released finally what I'm going to call the final revision of my novel. So
Exciting.
For those of you who don't know, I do have 3 books out published on Amazon.
Nice.
It's called the Exit Plan trilogy. So that's What is My Exit Plan, This is My Exit Plan, and I Need an Exit Plan.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's based on a radio drama, an audio drama that I did called Exit Plan.
Exit Plan.
It's a little bit different, but it's basically the same sort of story.
Sci-fi.
It's kind of like, that pause says no.
Sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, it's a contemporary fantasy. So it's about a man. But the thing that I do like about it, and I can't help it in my writing, is I do like this collision between rationality and the irrational. And I've mentioned it before in these sci-fi films we watch, when the spiritual gets interjected into rational. I like that
crossover.
The crossover. So I don't like the science versus religion.
No.
Like, the whole Contact. I didn't appreciate Contact for that aspect, where at the end they sort of have this, which I think is a ludicrous argument, and I'll get into why it's a
When we do
nonsense.
contact.
But but I do like the fact that in Contact, the Julia, what's the name? The actress woman with that really strong Southern accent. She was in Silence of the Lambs.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
Julianne Moore or
No,
something.
it's not Julianne Moore.
I don't know. Who is that?
Keep talking.
If your name is Julianne Moore, get in touch with me and let me know.
No,
what you
Julianne
do.
Moore is a big actor as well,
okay.
but not from Contact.
But anyway, like it's cool in that she's forced to maybe consider that there is a perspective view. Like there is a
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster done. Yes, she has to consider that reality may not always be as objective as she wants.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there is a bit of subjectivity involved. And in my book, I have a similar thing where I've got the main character is, let's face it, it's me. He's not entirely me, but he's a bit more of a dick than I am. And
According to you.
he has to face a bit of magic and like this monster he witnesses, which makes no sense.
So that's what you've written before.
I've written-
Currently you're...
Well, I revised it and did a re-revision.
Ah,
of
you've
that,
done a
and
revision
that's
of
been
that.
released now, and I'm actually advertising it on Amazon at the moment.
Right. Okay.
So
Awesome. So there's a
check it
new
out.
version, new edition.
see what sort of crap I write.
Well, not crap at all.
And I'm actually now revising. I've got about 4 other novels sitting on my hard drive that I'm revising. I'm going to re-release
Definitely.
now.
Get your creative projects out there, people.
Yes,
There's no point in them having on a hard drive collecting digital dust.
and I've got a list of sci-fi ideas that I want to do.
Yeah, awesome.
And yourself, what have you been up to?
Well, my film Harold the Plumber has gone out. It was selected for the Perth Independent Film Festival. I do have to sit down and enter it into a few other festivals, but yeah, so that's heading out on the film festival circuit. There is plans for another short film later this year, but that will come after our inaugural Spacebrains Sci-Fi Film Festival.
Oh, and what a great film festival this is going to be.
Yeah, we've had some really positive feedback and funding opportunities. I still probably don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet of that until we have money in the bank. But yeah, we've had great chats locally with funding possibilities, which is exciting. So as soon as that is locked in, I'm sure the festival can gain some traction. Again, if you're listening and you'd like to come to the festival, when is it?
It's May 21, 2022. So we're in that year now. So I
We
don't
are
have to say that
22.
anymore.
Yeah, so
May 21.
for us, it is the middle of January. So if you're listening, it's probably more like February, and that's fine. So start thinking about organising how you are going to get to Mandurah for May 2022. And I know that's a bit up and down because COVID keeps changing everything, and the way our politicians dealing with it here locally kind of keeps changing. But if you're locally bred in Western Australia, think about, hey, I'll do a day trip to Mandurah, or I might stay over for the night. I should book some hotel accommodation, maybe a nice restaurant.
Fine restaurants and
that's right. So, come down, check it out, and make sure you come say hi to us. And also let us know, maybe is there something workshop-wise you'd be interested in listening to or having... be in the room, learning about a particular topic, because we are putting those kind of final touches to the workshop. So I'm all excited about that. It's not head in the sand.
No, we've got a list of
head in the
tasks.
universe, thinking about what sort of possibilities we can have out there. If you'd like to sponsor the event, get in touch. Plenty of opportunities. So, I'm super excited about that. So, let's move into Don't Look Up in terms of some of the details, Surrey.
Some of the details of the narrative structure, some of the plot points, some of the film techniques, some of the camera lighting, some of the sound, any other social commentary and so forth. That's what we're going to get into. Yeah,
so this was written and directed by Adam McKay. As mentioned before, he's a real big Hollywood comedy producer, Anchorman. I mean, who doesn't like Anchorman? He made 1 and 2, Step Brothers, The Other Guys, and then a couple of years ago he had The Big Short, which he won an Oscar for writing, script writing. Nominated Best Director, Best Film, but he only took out the Oscar for, I think, Best Script Writer or Best Script, whatever they call it. So good on Adam McKay. Career a little bit different. He's also a producer of many, many other different types of film, and he's obviously put this film together. We mentioned before the story did come from him and another fellow, but he is the screenplay. He wrote the screenplay and directed this film. Cast is massive. Good old Leo DiCaprio. I mean, this guy is just a superstar, isn't he? I mean,
one of my wife's favourites.
I mean, I still don't even... The issue I had, and I don't know if you had the same thing, was that it just still looks kind of like a boy to me, because I'm just like, I've grown up with him, and he... I think of Romeo and Juliet. Like, I can't help but see him as a boy, even though now
Titanic,
he's like... now he's a man, Jennifer Lawrence plays Dabaski. Meryl Streep. I mean, this woman is incredible. I love Meryl Streep. And again, I mean, she plays this role. She's kind of like Trump. She's an idiot. Well, she's into sex. Like, she's horny.
She's
she's biased.
I wouldn't say she's like Trump. She's far too... Like, she's really savvy.
She's a bit more savvy than that, but she's
a mixture of a few of these presidents, I think.
I think so. She's a bit like Bush, maybe a bit more like George Bush. I don't know.
Clinton,
I don't know. It's funny, but she had the photo of her and Steven Seagal. That was the photo, and that's really funny if you look into that. A little side note: go Google Steven Seagal. He's connected to Putin, like he's really heavily connected to Putin. He's not in Hollywood at all. Big sex scandals, and I just thought it was quite funny that they put her with Steven Seagal. Like, that's on the, even at the end of the film when everything's blowing up, that photo comes by again. Yeah. Like, it's great. Then Kate Blanchett, Australian. Kate Blanchett, terrific actor.
She should come along to the film festival.
She should. She plays this TV host again. Like, it's an extraordinary performance. I actually do, as a side note, and let me know if you disagree, the women in this, I feel, were the standout. Like, Meryl, Jennifer, and Kate were just incredible. I really thought...
The thing I loved about Jennifer's performance in here is she has in the past copped flack for her acting, like, because we all know and love her from the Catching Fire and
Hunger Games,
Eating Games or something other.
Hunger Games.
She was very
hungry for 3 films.
In the Hunger Games, where she got a bit of flack for being a bit of a bit wooden, a bit of a cardboard cutout and so forth, and then she did a couple things, but this. As Jennifer Lawrence, I think she's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
She plays this more sort of punk, sort of rebel scientist person.
So it's a bit more subtle, isn't it? It's like she's kind of subtle in terms of how her character is in the world.
And her emotional expression in this is more active and ragged. It's good. So, like... It actually took me a few moments to recognize it was Jennifer Lawrence.
Yep.
Because I was expecting her to be a media personality.
They definitely taken, and they took a bit of her, I suppose, I mean, I hate to say this, but they took a bit of her natural beauty away and they made her a bit more punky and a bit more scientisty, but not nerdy. Yeah, I don't know. She was a complex character. She delivered, and like I said, the women in this, I think, are the standout in terms of performances. Rob Morgan, he plays the Dr. Teddy. Jonah Hill, which you mentioned, like he's kind of the dickhead son, chief of staff.
I actually really like Jonah Hill.
It was good.
Great.
Mark Rylance played that Peter Urshwer, he was cool.
Was he the same guy who was in Ready Player One, the nerd main character who ran the Second World?
Famous. He won an Oscar for Bridge of Spies, and he also won he did that in theatre in Britain. So he did the same role in the theatre play and then in the Steven Spielberg film, and he won an Oscar for that. He was really cool because he was kind of creepy and sophisticated and then also business-like, which then when Mindy pulls him up on being a businessman, he takes a really high offence to it, doesn't he? Timothée Chalamet plays Yule. Tyler Perry plays Jack Brenner. Ron Perlman. Who doesn't like a bit of Ron Perlman? Surrey plays the crazy racist
was he not great?
astronaut. And everyone keeps going, it's a different generation.
Yeah,
I liked that,
I got a little note in my notes here. Ron Perlman shouting at kids.
And he's just like, he starts being quite racist and they're like, it's a different generation.
Well, the funny thing I thought, though, going up in that shuttle, it was kind of racist, not racist. It was like that... there's a lot of white men down there doing great work. Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's kind of... I wouldn't say that he's being, purposefully sexist. Like, he's not trying to make a point.
Yeah.
That would be a generational thing. Like, that's the language that he would use.
Yes, definitely.
But then he went, I want to... thank the Indians.
Yeah.
Both the curry and with the elephants and so forth, and the ones with the bows and the arrows. I'm like, why don't they ever team up? Wouldn't that be great? So it's like he has this weird external sort of view, which is like racist in the way that it segregates. But he's just kind of, and then he starts to say something about, and then the gay men, and he like cuts off, like they cut him off. You just think, I wanted to hear what he had to say because
he's got no filter, and that's the thing.
It would have been amusing. Whatever he's going to say was going to be funny.
Yeah, he's great, Ron Perlman. He plays the tough astronaut's going to save the day, so to speak. Ariana Grande and Kid Cudi play that relationship, the celebrities. They play separate celebrities. And then Hamish Patel, the comedian, rounds it out. Philip, the journalist. This was filmed in the USA.
Oh, he was Halliday in Ready Player One.
Who's that?
Isherwell.
Yeah.
Because I reckon that's the voice.
Mark Rylance.
That strange sort of voice like this that he spoke with.
And he's playing a weird version of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. It's that same guy.
A slightly less human character version of the same one from Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad I got that satisfied because I annoy my wife every night. We watch a movie or something. I go, that guy. Oh, what do I
know the voice?
And I look it up and I go, he's from the Unicorn Shop.
Yeah, and he's the BFG.
He's not from the Unicorn Shop. The guy I was thinking about.
Yeah, but he's the BFG. The BFG, as well. Yeah. So and that rounds out the thing. This was filmed obviously in the USA. Huge budget from Netflix of 75 mil. So this was a Netflix film created for Netflix. Obviously,
that must have largely gone to the stars and the cast.
Yeah,
because you can't get. Ariana Grande and Ron Perlman and Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence, what did she get paid for Passengers? Like 20 million or something?
Yeah, she got paid double what Andy did, didn't she? Chris Pratt. Andy
poor old Chris had to put up with just 10 million.
Just 10 million of him. Yeah, he wasn't as well known.
I can't even conceive of that sort of thing. Anyway.
So, look, we're going to break down the narrative into some of the key parts, not go through, obviously, every scene or anything. This is a 2-hour and 20-minute film if you haven't watched it, and you should have watched it by now. But if you haven't, buckle down, give yourself enough time. I didn't give myself enough time when I sat down. I thought it was a little bit shorter. But we do like to break the narrative down with some common elements that you can find from all good story and script writing teachers. These come from people like Campbell, Snyder, McPhee, and Field, plus many others, where basically there's a 3-act structure, so beginning, middle, end, and then those acts get broken down into what we call beats or scenes or particular moments.
Yeah, so we have Act 1, of course, and we'll be nice and brief in this, but Act 1 is the opening image. It states a bit of a theme. It gets all your characters sorted out so you get an idea of who they are, what they're trying to do, what their problems are. And then we end up with this catalyst moment, this inciting incident, this question that gets asked, which we're hoping the film will answer.
Yep.
Or it's a promise of introduces the premise. The promise of the premise is what comes Act 2.
It's got to shake the world up.
But this is the bit which says, hey, here's kind of what's going to happen. Get ready.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a false inciting incident. Like you think, this is going to be a murder mystery. And it turns out, no, it's an action romance.
Yeah.
But most often you do at that point have an idea of what this film is going to be.
Yeah.
And the films that you tend to get up and walk out on are usually the ones that don't introduce this catalyst at the right point.
That's right.
I was going to say early enough, but if you're walking out, they haven't done it early enough.
Yep.
Some films, it's a little bit later. Some films a little bit early. Some as early as like 10 minutes. Sometimes it's like 17, 18 minutes. Yeah. Some it can be even the half-hour mark if it's one of these slow burn building sort of a thing. But that being said, the catalyst will introduce a question that the main characters have to answer. They go, are we going to take action A or action B? Are we going to continue this film or does the story end here? Yes. And of course, we know the story continues, but it's important, like it's a part of the character and the story as to why they make that decision.
But that is why it has to happen early, Surrey, because if it doesn't happen, if it happens too late, you are walking out because you've kind of like, well, where is this going?
Yeah.
You know? So it does, I mean, whether it's 10 minutes or 12 minutes or 20 minutes kind of does depend a bit, but it needs to happen early enough because if it doesn't, we, the audience, are kind of going, well, where is this going? Like you're kind of drawing out that introduction too much.
Well, see, I think Cosmos, we did a previous episode, is an example where the catalyst moment was kind of stretched and staggered over a longer period.
Yes.
Because that movie was, I could call it a hockey stick movie. You know, it starts with a flat trajectory coming in. It sort of builds. And then when it hits a certain critical moment in the final third of the film, it just ramps straight to the universe, like to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so it's appropriate to draw that catalyst out. Some films, it's really early on. Like you get your kids' movies in particular.
Yeah.
They'll whack that in from 10 minutes to 12 minutes because, you know, you're looking for something snappy and easy and accessible. Act 2.
Yeah, Act 2, we get into possibly like what are the characters going to be doing about this catalyst? You know, what's their plan? This quite often leads into what they call the fun and games, meaning okay, if we're deciding to do this path, well then, hey, what's all the fun on that path? You know, if there's a bomb on the bus, well, what are we doing about the bomb on the bus? You know, if we need to save the princess in the castle and we've got to go through the forest and the desert and swim the greatest ocean that ever existed, you know, like, okay, well, we're going on that journey, you know. So if we all got so drunk last night we don't remember what happened and then we've got to recount what we did last night, this is the fun and games part.
Yes.
So the fun and games is quite often like the trailer. It's the character investigating it. During these fun and games, as I said, it could be a comedy, so it's like a bit jovial, but it could also be action-packed stuff, you know, bomb on the bus stuff. And we also have a bit of B story rolling out. This could be love interest or friendship or some other theme that's being investigated. And this all heads to the midpoint. So the midpoint is exactly halfway through the story. And the midpoint can either be a bit of an upper or a downer, which then leads the character down a path. And traditionally down that path, things get worse. So even if the midpoint was a bit of a positive, from here, things are thrown at the character. And quite often these are called the bad guys close in, all is lost, the dark night of the soul. And that all leads to a break into the third moment. Even if it's a positive, upbeat moment, then things start going bad. If it's a negative midpoint, then things kind of get even worse for the character. So, you know, if it's an action film, it's very obvious. It's kind of the bad guys literally closing in. If it's
It's when James Bond gets captured.
Yeah,
In most James Bonds, he gets captured at some point.
Yep, and
Usually
this would be
because
this part, the 2/3 of the film.
He's been doing the infiltration, everything's going
Yep.
great. And then at some point in the middle, he'll get captured or his friend will get captured or something.
That's right.
That's it.
Just then and that's for James Bond, that's not a big deal. He can escape being captured, right? So he starts getting out of it, and then it turns the bad guys closing in is that his partner or the person he trusted double crosses him, and now he's really trapped. Or the woman at the bar who he seduced earlier in the film and had a bit of fun with is actually working with the bad guy and has now double crossed him or something.
no.
So, or she's got some piece of information that he wants and he can't get it and he's trapped. So yeah, this is what leads to that break into three. The point of the break into three moment is that the character has learned from all of these trials and tribulations and journey, whether it's physical or spiritual or whatever. The break into three means that they suddenly go, do you know what? Life's been a bit shitty. This plan didn't really work. This path, this journey took me. Now I'm stuck. Now I'm underwater. There's sharks circling me, whatever. The bomb has exploded. The bus. I failed. But what I do now means we move into the third act.
Yes.
And so if they just give up and laid down and died or rolled over and said, that's it, I give up on my James Bond goes, right, that's it, I don't want to be an agent anymore, that would be the end of the story. But they don't, do they? They quite often then come up with a new plan, and that's where we head into the third act.
The third act, of course, is the finale, and we have classically it'll be a plan being hatched. Like, we've come from that dark point where it's like everything's all crap. There's been some little inspiration, and then they go, oh, you know what? There is this one chance.
Yes.
And they go, so they gather their resources.
It's a slim chance, but we can do it.
It's just so crazy, it might just work.
That's right.
And they gather their resources and they head out on it. That will fail almost always. That initially, not
but
necessarily.
It gives them enough hope to push on, right?
It may be, in the 80s action films, it's when like the bad guy seems to get killed, and I managed to do it. But then, of course, there's always a little twist at the end where the bad guy comes back. The characters have to grow. They have to demonstrate something they stepped on. And in Die Hard, it was the cop who shot a kid and never used a gun since. And apparently that's a bad thing. Okay, well, it's bad you shot a kid, but it's probably good that you're not going around just pulling your gun. But he shoots. He suddenly gets the bravery and the courage because he's inspired by John McClane.
Yeah.
So then you get the final images where you see the aftermath.
Yeah.
You see the hero enjoying the spoils of their victory, basically.
Yeah,
and you see how their life has changed, how the world has changed. And in this film, we very literally see how the world has changed.
We do. So let's go back to the start of Don't Look Up. This is a great one. We were just saying about the inciting incident. I felt sorry that we get straight into the story. So we're sort of set up. We're at the Michigan State University. There's a big astronomy tower, a telescope that she's working on. Very quickly spots this anomaly that she then, she goes to that TV screen and she obviously goes back, I presume maybe days or something, and so you can see that the comet is traveling. Yeah. And so it's a great visual cue for an audience. Like, this comet's coming towards us. It's a GIF, isn't it? She creates a GIF.
It's probably usually a bit more like the images we saw in Cosmos. Like, it's just sort of weird blobby stuff with numbers.
But no, this was more.
She understood it, but
But this was more traditionally the way we see a comet.
Yeah.
And very quickly she gets Mindy and there's the other people and he starts getting into the maths, and I quite liked that. They're all kind of loving the maths part, and he's, I haven't done those maths since, I was a junior, and he starts doing them. And she, again, it's interesting. She, again, is the one that says, why the numbers keep getting lower? And he stops and we see him calculating and he rubs off the last number and
0.0.
So he's realized what she's questioning, and it's not good, in his face. And so then they report it, really quickly, and that's an interesting one that they're reporting it to NASA, and NASA's like, okay, the numbers work out. And they get the defense guy on the line, and he's sort of stopped in his tracks.
What I like here is they very quickly gave us a hint that this movie's not going to be entirely serious.
No.
So they said, the head of the Planetary Defense Organization or something.
They kind of bring up
and
the
it
logo.
comes and says, yes, that really exists.
This is their real
This
logo.
is their logo. And so that kind of comedic presentation, you didn't get that in Armageddon.
No.
Which was ultra melodramatic the whole time with Steve Tyler singing his song and Liv Tyler quivering her lower lip or whatever she's doing.
But I loved all this because in 10 minutes we've learnt the plot points. A comet's coming to Earth. Dabaski's found it. Mindy's found it. We also learnt that both of them are quite intelligent people, but Mindy is also struggling maybe with speaking up, a bit of anxiety. That's demonstrated very quickly that he doesn't. He's obviously a brilliant scientist, but can't quite communicate properly.
I also like the line that the NASA woman says. She says, okay, why have you just cost us $8 billion in funding?
Yes. Yeah.
Like straight into, that's the theme of this, or part of the theme of this film is just that the question isn't, okay, so what's this big news?
Yeah.
It's like, you've cost us money.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you got to say, you're costing us money. It's like,
well, I suppose is that the whole theme of the film? It's like, you've got this piece of information, but is it more important than this information?
This dollars.
This is money, what do we do with this? There's lots of doomsday stories. Is it really that interesting? Is that the theme? Did you pick up a theme straight away?
I picked up the theme spoken by Isherwell. And when he says, we've got 40 billion data points on you, whatever it is, you run away from pain and run to pleasure. You're like a field mouse. And that's kind of part of this theme of this thing. One of the themes. I think there were a couple of themes.
Yeah.
But one of them was definitely that. And I really liked here, we're talking about Catalyst.
Yeah.
And because I was watching, I was thinking, geez, they sort of got to the world's coming to an end quickly. That was done in the first couple of minutes. So I went, well, that can't be the catalyst. And so I was watching, and at the 12-minute mark, just before the 12-minute mark, that's where they finally, they're delayed from getting to the president's office.
Yep.
And then we get the credits.
Yep.
Suddenly we have all the credits come, and then they're talking to the president who doesn't believe them or is blowing them off. Well, and I thought to myself, that's more the catalyst now, is because now I'm thinking, oh, geez, what are they going to do? It's not how they're going to deflect the asteroid. It's more like how they're going to convince this, how they're going to get action
And that's
taken.
the inciting incident, right? The inciting incident is convincing people that this is really important. And that was a great, those scenes when they were waiting in the White House was great. I mean, we had humor in there about the food and but remember, someone has a birthday cake.
Yeah. And she looks depressed at the end.
She looks depressed. And then when the president does come in, it's like, oh, we'll be with you. And then you can hear them talking in the other room, and all they're talking about is this senator guy that's going to be the Supreme Court, whatever, right? It's not as important as the info.
Yeah.
And I think that's and even the Pentagon guy then leaves. He has to be somewhere else. And the point, even when Mindy calls NASA, they're like, yeah, why are we speaking? You just cost us $8 billion in funding. I think the whole point here is there's more important information. What's the most important thing? And no one seems to value what Mindy and
Mark
have to say. Nothing is important, right? So Dabaski. So I loved that, and I loved that the catalyst happened that way to me. Sorry, to me it was roughly on 12 minutes, that we're into it.
Yeah.
So they do speak to the president, played by Meryl Streep. We've got Jonah Hill's kind of introduced here. Teddy, there's a great scene we spoke about a bit earlier. Leo's really grasping. He's trying to express himself. He's got his little book. They change the numbers. They don't. And then Jennifer Lawrence as well. She kind of basically sums up. You don't want to come out with this information because you've got midterms and you're going to lose the vote if you kind of come out with a doomsday. And you know what I mean? There was she was spelling out what they were all thinking.
Yeah.
But they weren't saying that. They were going, oh, well, you can't, 70%, blah, blah, blah. We can maybe sell this in the new year.
And then we do, quite quickly from that, we get to the debate, which is a genuine, actual debate where they're walking along the train, they're going, we've been told not to tell anyone about this.
Yeah.
but do we leak it to the media?
Yeah, and Teddy
how do we
is
do
like,
that?
yeah.
And he just says, yeah, damn right we do.
Yeah.
So it was pretty quick in there,
Yes.
but we find out that wasn't quite as easy as they thought.
No, because then they're in with the media and is it the Herald Sun or the Times? Is it the Times? New York Times?
New
or
York
is it,
Times.
yeah, they seem to be all on their side, and they go, "I'll get them a lawyer." And he's like, "Why do we need a lawyer?
well,
like,
a
why
lawyer.
can't we just tell people to look up? Look up at the sky?" And he's like, "Well, you can't tell people that." And it becomes very quickly about the
We'll need to get you some media training.
media training. Yeah.
What?
So they go on this show, which is Eventry and Jack Bremer, who are morning show. They're huge, obviously, apparently. They do have a run-in with Grande, who kind of, tells him to fuck off, your old fart or whatever.
That's funny. Where it's just such a superficial thing where
Yeah.
she's saying all these ridiculous things. I can't remember exactly what she's saying there, but then he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I heard about your breakup there.
Yeah.
It seemed like really nice." And then she gets all like
Super offended.
really offended and aggressively defensive, and you're like, whoa. And then of course the very next scene, she's on the talk show talking her heart out about this the heartbreak she's experienced, and then she has a marriage proposal on TV, and they're like, "Oh, is that?" And they're waiting there up, like, and now we've got a little bit of a science experiment. And it's exactly like that. Any given morning show, talk show, there's the exact same sort of garbage presentation of rubbish information.
So, and I mean, their actual information, their threat is not taken seriously, and Dabaski loses her shit.
And instantly becomes a meme.
A meme, yeah. And isn't that great? Like, afterwards, you feel the hopelessness, right?
Yeah.
But then afterwards, when there's that woman presenting back at the New York Times or whatever it is, and she's like, "Oh, you guys had barely no reach during the interview. You were really low on numbers. There wasn't many people clicking or reacting to your interview. Oh, when you swore, people got it. That hit a lot of likes.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, immediately you were, and it's just like it starts clicking through all those memes and photos, and it was like, oh, that people have not taken this seriously. They've really not taken it seriously.
What
and
would it take?
And that's what the people at the time, they go, well, we gave it a shot.
Yeah.
You can't sell this story. We're done with this story.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah, what do we do? And fortunately, though, of course, we do get into the fun and games because the president does call them back up and offer them an apology.
That's
And it's because, we've got our top scientists on it, like as if these people weren't the top. And right. The head of NASA had said, no, it's bullcrap. And then he said, the head of NASA is not a physicist. She's an anesthesiologist. Basically, what does she know about comets?
That's right.
Yeah, very clever. She's, yes, a doctor, but not a doctor of astrophysics.
That's right.
So it's like, you're not going to ask an astronomer to, anesthetize someone. That would probably result in death.
Yes.
Quite a bit of it.
So that is the break into two, the fact that they get this second chance from the president.
Yeah, and this is straight into the fun and games where she goes, she presents the media presentation, and it's like it's on a battleship. Like I immediatally thought of Cher doing, if I can turn back to, dating me again.
Yeah. There's a ridiculous...
Cher's not dating me, although she's still looking pretty good.
There's a total ridiculousness to that, isn't it? That she's giving this passionate speech.
And she uses the term preemptive strike.
Yeah, preemptive strike, yeah.
like the comet is trying to hit us on purpose.
Yeah. No, it's great. So,
and then Ron Perlman shouting at kids. And then we've got to have a hero. Like, they're launching all these rockets up, and they're just going to launch the space shuttle with them for no particular reason.
That's right. And that's right. Because Mindy says, "Oh yeah, they'll probably divert the thing. That'll be a good plan." Oh no, we've got to send a hero.
Yes.
So the mission does successfully. It's fun and games. So they build the rockets. This is also where Mindy starts to, because his narrative arc is that he starts to get allured into this world, doesn't he? And so Ventry, I think was her name, Ventry, the Kate Blanchett starts to Bree. They start to romance. She puts her hand on his leg as she's interviewing him.
You can quickly tell it's not really a romance. She's excited by the media attentionness of it,
and also he's excited
drama. He's excited because someone actually is paying attention to him.
I think so too. And his world this is for him, the fun and games is that, well, people are paying attention to him. People are interested in him.
I know. I really felt sorry for Dabasky there, where it's like he kept being referred to as the person who discovered it. He's like, no, he just confirmed it.
Yeah.
But he looked better on camera.
Yes. So they do successfully launch their mission, and everyone's, into it, and it's being covered by the news, and everyone's happy. And we have this great moment in there where, the rockets go up, and we talked about, him being a bit racist and sexist and all that kind of stuff. But besides that, there's an awesome filmic element here where when they're starting to celebrate, there's pauses, like historical photos.
Yes.
And the reason why I want to say that is that Adam McKay uses that technique here, and then the opposite is also used at the end of the film. So it's just a nice bookend that he does, and to me this is kind of closing in on the midpoint, so it's kind of like an upbeat midpoint that they're going to send these rockets into space. It's not quite the midpoint, but it's close to it, because then in this success we get this Ursula character come in, who we have been introduced to earlier, and he's basically
don't make eye contact, don't make sudden movements, don't cough, don't say negative comments.
Don't look him in the eye. He's kind of Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, Bill
Elon
Gates,
Musk.
whatever, Elon Musk. Like, he's a combination of them all, and he's great because he's quite confusing. He comes in and there's a legitimate question: is he allowed in this room, like with all these experts and the president? Oh, he's our biggest donor. He gets an all.
They call him like the double platinum eagle donator or something like Jonas. He has all these little throwaway lines that just shoot in there.
He says that and he goes, and it's an all access pass. It's like, so there's comedy to that, because obviously it's probably not that blatant in reality.
They've monetized or gamed this donations process where you almost sort of, it's like a Patreon, where you donated this level.
You donate enough, you can just walk into the president's White House.
The special, photograph and the dinner. But then if you pay enough, you just wherever you want, whenever you want.
And anyway, so he has a chat with President Orlan, and then the next thing you know, the mission starts changing. The rockets turn, the missiles turn, they all come back to Earth.
Parachutes and start dropping.
Yeah.
That made me so angry.
Yeah, and they're all confused. And again, Dabasky is very, angry about this. They get shoved into a room and they're trying to work out what happened. And this is where they bring across Mindy, and Mindy is given the chief scientist to the White House role. Yes. And so again, it's like alluring him into that world, isn't it? It's like pulling him in. Dabasky, you're on the other side of the fence.
And then Jonah's an ass again, where he suddenly goes, "Oh, actually,
do you want to come?
Yeah, do you want to come? Oh, yeah, I would love to." And he just closes the door and walks in. And oh, you dude.
I know. He's so nasty to her. And the thing is, then Mindy starts becoming this kind of prominent voice. We sort of see adverts and, opportunities. And we learn that basically Bash says, why blow up this comet when it's full of all these minerals? It's trillions of dollars of minerals that, we could excavate and, end world hunger, which is just bullshit. We know it's not true. So if you've been looking into the news, they mentioned, like, in this last 12 months, the 10 richest men tripled their wealth, I think, to $240 billion. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was $1 trillion, I think. Elon Musk himself earned $240 billion during the year of COVID. Yeah. And the Amazon guy was similar, and Bill Gates. I mean, Bill Gates earned something like $140 billion in 1 year, even though he got a divorce. I mean, it's incredible. So these guys make a lot of money. So the fact that he sells it as, you could end world hunger or whatever, it's like, no, it's not gonna.
That was clearly not his interest. No. Because he said, it's got all the minerals that you use to make mobile phones and chips. And
other minerals.
And we could solve all the world's problems. That's not at all your motive, is it?
No. So
the thing that angered me about this, as the sort of person I am, is that the dominant strategy would have been to continue with the deflection mission.
Yeah.
And then once you've got a margin of safety, now figure out how can we launch up your drones to cut pieces off and bring them back.
That's right.
With no danger. If that fails, no problem.
Yeah.
but instead they just totally just stopped.
Yeah.
And because you see politicians doing things like this, they just go, oh yeah, we're going to stop the regional fire alerting system, and then the following fire year or something, you get the worst disastrous fires in however like a century or something stupid. Or they go, oh, we're going to stop the pandemic alert response system because it's just pointless. And then a year and a half later, COVID hits, and you sort of go like, oh God, why do you not just maintain the dominant strategy here of not deflect the comet? Okay, now Earth is safe. You are the savior of the Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, now send your drones up and do whatever the fuck you want.
Drill it.
Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, but no, they just went, it's now do or die. We're going to do this. We're going to put all of our faith into this mathematical modelling, which, it's crazy.
So Mindy does become a prominent voice. And to me, Surrey, this is the midpoint. Like, it's a negative win because Mindy's been seduced into this world. Dabasky's been kicked out, and so has Teddy. Whereas Mindy's the opposite. He's been pulled into the world and he becomes this representative of the world. So to me, it was like, this was the midpoint, and they've stopped the mission. They're now going to do this kind of commercial mission. And Mindy has kind of become like the others, you know. So to me, it's the opposite also of the start at this point, because at the start, Mindy and Dabasky were kind of colleagues, you know. They were together, they were in on that battle, whereas now they're separated. She's been kicked out, he's been included as long as he's on their side.
And now you get the bad guys moving in. They abandon Randall, Mindy. Dabasky just sort of goes, no, well, I'm out.
Yep.
Because I think she is literally driven away with a bag on her head again and made to sign a thing to say that she won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And, Teddy just sort of drifts off.
And drifts away,
He's kind of a easygoing sort of character anyway.
Yeah, and the world is also divided here, bad guys close in between... We should do something, and we should think of the jobs.
It's
a very clear division.
That's brought in with Dabasky. Kate, she turns up to her parents, and she goes to open the door, and they don't let her in. And you go, well, no politics here. We're for the job, and you're like, you're not going to get any jobs. No. What does that mean? Their minimum wage is $7 an hour anyway.
And if the world ends, like, you got no job. I
wouldn't get out of bed for $7 an hour. Like, are you crazy?
So and then the bad guy, again, see, this is metaphors for bad guys turning in, because to her, she's turned back home, her parents are dickheads, the world's are kind of dickheads, and so she just gets a job at the local supermarket. She does meet these young punk guys that love her kind of cult status, and she's like, well, I don't really care. Like, who cares? The world's going to end. So she starts hanging out with them. And then at the same time, Mindy starts questioning Ursula, and there's that great scene where he does question him. He tells him, oh, well, my phone's got all these sensors that can determine your exact emotional, who you used to be and who you will be. And
we know when you're going to die.
We know even when you're going to die.
And you're going to die alone.
Yeah.
Which is, I really love the later on when he's talking to the president and says, it says you're going to be eaten by a Bronteroc.
A Bronteroc.
And she says, what's that? We don't know.
We don't actually know.
which is great, because then there's that bookend scene at the end there. But we also have the confrontation where the wife confronts Randall.
Yeah.
So we thought things were bad because he got, his previous colleagues have left. Yeah. And he's sort of joined in there with the dark side, as it were. He's trying his best to kind of steer it sensibly, but it's kind of... He's sort of on board with this high-tech solution, but he's got doubts. And then, things getting worse because his wife turns up and basically confronts him and says, what are you doing? Your life with me or with her? And, the only information he knows about her is her favourite restaurants.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, well, let me tell you about me. And she lists off these 3 master's degrees, and, she's incredibly accomplished. But none of that means anything. She goes, oh, now, where are we going to go for dinner tonight? It's just, again, this really nonsense sort of thing. And then we also got a few news broadcasts there where we hear some of the rhetoric from the various sides of people sort of, questioning whether it's the Jews doing something or other, or whether it's, it's just the liberals are trying to use fear to manipulate you, and think of the money, wealth, and then the comment, someone said, 23% of people don't even believe there is a comet. And all of that I see is the bad guys moving in on the scenario.
It is, the world's
if their initial mission, that catalyst was, can we convince people, yes, let's go on and do it.
Yeah.
It's something going, actually, it turns out you haven't really done anything.
No, they haven't succeeded.
You've not succeeded at what you thought you were going to succeed at.
This is what I mean. Like, Mindy was sucked into their world and Dubasky was kicked out. You know, so they're actually less powerful in bad guys close in because they're not together. They're not fighting that fight anymore. So, yeah, definitely. And then that, Ursula sort of telling him that, because he tries to say to him, but your plan of these drones, like, you know, what's the science? Like, it's not peer reviewed. We haven't really confirmed this. And he's like, oh no, it's going to work. Our modeling is going to work. But it's not. He's like, not peer, you know. And then his answer to that is to basically say to him, well, this is how you will die alone. You know, like you don't really know anything. So to kind of crush him down. The all is lost moment to me is that then Mindy, after all that, breaks down on television and has his absolute meltdown. So when everyone's kind of hashtagging Mindy's hot and he's the hot scientist, and you know he's got Kate Blanchett and he's in the White House, he's got the power position. But still, no one's listening to him. So he then has that meltdown. He has that.
I love his moment on Sesame Street. Yeah. So, Doctor, we're all going to die. Says, yes, we're all going to die, I'm afraid. Yeah. And then like the puppeteer sort of stands up and looks around and walks off. Yeah.
But yeah, when he has that breakdown after that, it's a very awkward breakdown as well because he kind of goes on and on. I found like he swears and he goes on, and then when they cut, they leave, and Kate Blanchett basically leaves him, and you know, in the next set is great, isn't it? Because it cuts to he's now got the bag on the head in the car, which is repetition to what happened to Basky, like, you know, half an hour earlier. And Kate Blanchett hops in and she says, oh, you know, you had something, but you don't have it anymore. And he's like, oh, are you still there? And she thinks about it, and it's great because he can't see her. Yeah. And you see her thinking, and she's like, no. And she leaves the car. So that to me is like really heading towards that, you know, the things have become worse. So leading into just before breaking the thieves, that scene I was saying before, it's like they both see the comet. So Dubasky's on the roof with her sort of boyfriend that she doesn't really care about, but she's just, you know, it's the end of the world. Who really cares? And they've had a nice moment, and then she spots it actually in the sky. And we intercut that with Mindy driving, and, you know, so he's been tossed away from the White House and the media and all that, and he spots it, and he gets out of his car, and people are honking and tooting, and he's like, there it is. This is what we've been telling you about. It's actually there. And he kind of manages to convince those, you know, 5 or 6 cars, those people get out, and they take it in, you know. And I think after that, there's a bit of a montage of like mobile phone footage and
all the social media
people realizing that, okay, look up. And that's where we sort of, now we break into 3 because Mindy then speaks to Dubasky and says, well, where are you? Let's come together. And he kind of makes amends for what he's done.
Yeah, this is their sort of plan.
This is their plan now.
Gathering the resources. Because did you listen to, you know, it comes up, there's going to be a special concert, and it shows that QR code on screen.
Yeah.
I paused it and hit that QR code because I was curious. Like, they very prominently put it there, and it takes you to the YouTube clip of the full song of Ariana Grande.
Yeah, cool.
Like, and you listen to the lyrics of that song.
Yeah,
where it says, you listen to the scientists, the actually qualified people.
Yeah,
it's quite funny. But so now they're using the enemy against them. You know, so they're getting the pop stars in on it to sing this song to get people. They're using all of the social media tags and so forth, but the enemy is using the exact same process back against them.
Yeah, so there's a real hashtag don't look up and look up.
And so they're really trying to encourage other nations to don't just sit and wait for America to do shit, which I'm surprised China and Russia would definitely not have waited for America to do something.
No.
They most certainly would have been, like Russia,
they would have had their own plan.
You would have thought they'd go, no, we beat them to space first time, we beat them to this comet.
Yeah.
We save world, but maybe not America. You know, like, I'm sorry to any Russian people listening. that was my attempt at Russian. It
Was
could
it bad?
well,
I don't
it
think that was
could
too bad.
well have been a drunken Dracula.
Well,
It's
it could
hard
have
to
been.
tell.
Yeah, it was a little bit more Transylvania, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I'm going to call it Australian does generic Eastern European effort. Yes, but the other nations is their goal, and indeed, it seems that they get that. Like the Russians and the Indians are doing some sort of joint effort.
Yeah, the China, India, and Russia have been cut out. They do a joint effort. And just when Mindy and Dabaski and Teddy have kind of had some moment that the plan is enacting, people are obviously supporting Ariana Grande and Kitty Cudi. They're all in on it. So there's support. That Chinese-Russian mission blows up.
Well, I love the irony here is that the reason that they even tried was not because they're inspired, but America... and the issue saying we could solve all these world problems.
But
America's
cut them out.
cutting out the other major,
That's right.
powers from the asteroid wealth. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's kind of... And that inspires them to go, well, we're going to launch our own effort, which fails.
When it fails, Mindy is quite distraught from that. And so it's a great kind of like, well, we tried this plan and we had a bit of momentum, didn't we? But it's failed. There's no other attempt. And they actually say, well, there's still Bash's plan. And so that's where we cut to Bash's drones, Bash Life. This film is also produced by Bash. Did you notice that? So in the opening credits, it actually says a Bash's production. So as a joke to what the film is. But yeah, the Bash's drones go up. It's a very scientific thing. In the launching, it's all successful, but then a couple kind of explode on each other. Yeah. And he's like, well, that's okay.
Well, you can see he's a little bit stressed.
He's a little bit stressed, but
we're fine.
We're fine.
We can still do this.
We've modelled that there's going to be a couple that fail. It's okay. And then they go up into space and it's progressing. And another one fails, and I think it takes out another one, and they do. The Orlean turns to him and says, "Well, you can," and he's like, "Oh no, it's still okay." And you're right, he's like tensing a lot more.
Yeah, he's like, "How many do we need?" My engineers tell me we need 24.
24.
We've just lost 6. You can lose 6 there, right?
Yeah.
It's okay.
And the drilling begins where it's going to drill and then blow up the comet, and we see a couple more kind of destroy each other, and then when it blows up, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't blow the comet
and
up.
With that, Ishuel kind of exits. I gotta go.
I just have to go for a second.
Yeah, to the bathroom, and Orlean kind of follows him very quickly, and it's a great moment that I love that because I think. In reality, that's exactly how things like that would play out because people would realize, well, this hasn't worked. It's the end. I'm not going to keep working. I need to get home. And they all sort of say it. They're like, I need to get home to my children, or I need to get home to my husband, or, they all kind of have reasons to go.
But Jason is left sitting there. He's the one who dies alone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Interesting. He's sitting there going, she'll be back.
She'll be back.
He's on the phone, on the airplane flying out and talking to Mindy. Says, there's 2. You can bring yourself and your wife or Brie or whoever you want.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I think I'm going to pass on that.
Well, yeah, because intercut, we've kind of jumped over. Intercut with that plan of Bash's was Mindy Dabaski and her boyfriend going shopping. And
well, see, this is after the reversal. So the reversal was the last-ditch effort of getting the other international forces to do something. That sort of failed. That's the reversal. Looks like the bad guy's going to win again.
Yeah.
And so now they employ what they've learned. And what they've learned is stop running away from the painful things.
Yeah.
Go and resolve them.
Yeah.
And so
they can't do anything to the world to stop it now. It's too late. There's no less. But what they can do is spend that time with their family. And so that's kind of then the plan. That's how this film sort of resolves itself as the world ends, is Mindy and his family cook a big meal, celebrate that meal, they celebrate the good times, they remember some of their happy memories from their childhood, and they're doing that literally as the world starts blowing up and destroying itself. Yeah. And like I said, that moment earlier in the film when they do send the rockets in space, there's these freeze frame historical photo impressions of, them celebrating. And then here at the end, as the house is literally cracking and tumbling, they each kind of get a freeze frame photo. I thought that was really cool. So it sort of mirrors the false midpoint now with the end midpoint. This is a little bit what we talked about when we did Donnie Darko, like the anti-hero. This isn't quite an anti-hero story, but it is like a story where they don't solve their initial problem.
Victory doesn't seem to be what you're expecting the victory to be.
No, that's right. Yeah, the victory is the fact that they decided, well, hang on, no, we can't convince anyone, we can't save the day, but we can spend our last moments together.
We can cherish what we have, yeah.
So that was I really liked that.
Do you know what I really liked about the ending, though? Was seeing the Ark flying off, and it succeeded. So, that satisfied that deep desire for science fiction to win.
That was definitely science fiction. So
then, to stop me from feeling too sad, because I was feeling a little bit bummed by the characters all dying and the world blowing up, but to save me from that, the final image is rocket goes through space. So it's no longer a comet coming through space towards Earth. It's a rocket flying, and it lands on this Garden of Eden.
And it says something like 22,000, is it 22,000 years later or 2,200 years later?
Something like that, yeah. And the doors open and the pods all open. A few of them failed.
Which is great.
It was only a 58% failure rate, which is better than expected. I did see there were 50 people less than...
I really like that because I reckon that's, again, really realistic, isn't it?
It's amazing that many people succeeded. But anyway, they come out into this thing, and they're all
like
naked.
A garden
and
of
it's
Eden.
a garden of Eden. They're all going, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And this creature comes up and all the
emu
goes up and says, oh, what is this? Is that feathers or is that scales? Which is the question about dinosaurs. Were they feathered or were they scaled?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it grabs her face and throws it down. And someone says, what the hell was that? And he goes, oh, I guess that was a Bronterock.
Don't get too close to them.
Yeah, don't try petting them. And then, the monsters are starting to close in on them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are they doomed to make it or they're not?
That Bronterock comment, I think, is just, the fact that it was like your destiny is to die alone, which you got wrong, but it sounded like a reasonable assumption. Yeah. And the other one came up with death by Bronterock, which, first, I had to come up with the name Bronterock.
I know.
But secondly, is it's so outlandish, eaten by a Bronterock, and you're like, that's okay. Obviously, this model is a little bit freaky. Computers come up with strange answers sometimes.
Yeah.
But actually, that was the one that turned out to be the most accurate.
Yes. And there is a little post-credit scene. I don't know if you caught this, Surrey, but there is a little scene at the end of the credits where Jason, so Jonah Hill, does emerge from the rubble, and he's still got a handbag.
Yes.
And he kind of starts filming himself as the last man on Earth. And we just pan out and it's destruction everywhere, and he's like, last man on Earth, peace out. YouTube, subscribe. So, because remember, he has that moment, he's praying for things, praying for material things. So even at the end of the world, if he's the last human on the planet, he's still into stuff. So yeah, it does have that comedy element, but I'm really interested in, if you're out there and you watch this film and you listen to us talk about it, were you laughing the whole way, or were you cringing, or were you stressful? Because, I was quite stressed. A couple of things I want to talk about is the camera. I just want to mention there was great use of focus. So there's a lot of focusing in and out on the characters, on the objects, deliberately kind of in and out. That stock footage that we talked about earlier,
that was cool.
That was really cool. As I said, it was quite often interconnected. If we don't do anything, the world's going to end. And it was interconnected with whales and babies. And it was so it was kind of really touching on that emotion. And then even at the end, that when the world started destroying, there was some very interesting intercutting with, when it hit the Earth, you see this huge sort of plume of smoke, and then your tidal waves and the vibrations. And we were intercutting then to, Mindy and his house and the family having a good time. But there was also some other moments, there was that Indian dancing and the fireballs, as the fireballs came all around him.
Bow and arrow type.
The bow and arrow, the American Indian or indigenous person.
Yes, we do apologise to the Native American
Native American.
The first Americans.
First Americans, definitely. But, that was a really kind of, impassionate scene. Again, it's I think it's to me, saying Adam McKay is trying to say, like, if you don't do anything, you lose all this stuff. You lose all these elements. You lose all these. How about the material elements?
Yeah, it was very heartbreaking as well.
Yeah,
that
like,
little scene with the little baby just
little baby,
and giggling in the bathtub, and you think you just got born at the wrong time.
Yeah, the wrong time. Yeah, and those freeze frames I did talk over, and also the crossover to the mobile phone footage as well. Editing, something else in this film I wanted to mention, that the scenes are really intercut. So what I mean is we have moments where, for example, two characters, Mindy and that, are talking on the TV program, and that's intercut with like the next scene, and then we come back to that scene. And there's a great example later before he has his breakdown, or when it is when he's having his breakdown, Mindy, and it cuts to the makeup brush is like brushing his face. Yeah. So it's a super close up of his face. And so it's a really intense look with his eyes, him contemplating probably, should I have a breakdown? But the breakdown's happening as well. Yeah. So this film plays with the timing of the scene. So we're already into the next scene when we're still sort of in the previous scene. And so that really plays with the feeling of anxiety and because it's like, oh, that scene's not resolving itself. Like there's no happy ending here.
That was also in that catalyst moment with the credits.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So they get to talk to the president.
Yeah.
Do we find out really what comes out of that?
No,
we've got to wait for the credits.
We've got to wait for the credits now. Yeah.
Which means you're left going, okay, yep, that's really cool seeing all these names.
Yeah. But we're stuck in that pause, aren't we? Yeah. Which was what the characters were going through.
The characters were in that moment. So it worked really well. And the credits were interesting to watch because they weren't just white text scrolling up.
No,
they were sort of comic book.
Vibrant, huge, across
Art
the screen.
Nouveau, I guess maybe sort of things. Is great.
So anyway, let us know what you thought about those plot points. Did we miss any that you really loved? Let us know what you loved, what you didn't love. And how this film made you feel and some of those filmic elements. All right, ladder time. Where do you put this on your ladder? Our ladder is kind of basically not so much saying which is the best film to the worst film, but actually just an order of watching the films, like a preference. If you started on our number one and went all the way through, this would be a incredible viewing experience. Where are you putting Don't Look Up? Sorry.
Okay, mine is going in... It's going to be either if you start watching at number one, it's going to be early.
Yep.
So it's in there just after The Dish.
Ooh, okay.
So I felt there was a resonance there. I really loved that subtle Australian humour of The Dish.
Yep.
But it was still talking about space.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was the hope of the moon landing and how that was bringing everyone together. And then you've got this subtle humour of the end of the world, which... I said I was almost uncertain how I felt about the ending of it.
Yes.
It was saved by that comedic ending, which brought me back from that, oh, what a horrible ending sort of thing. So, up there, you'd then be getting a bit of District 9 into you.
Ooh, okay, yeah, right.
And then Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind. So there's kind of, there's a good, I like some of these less action-oriented or straightforward films.
Yeah.
So... But I do like to intersperse them with some of this action and things.
Yeah, a bit of diversity.
So I'll put it in there. It's going to be... We're getting quite a big ladder now. I'm wondering if we're going to have to break it into subcomponents or something.
We might, yeah.
Maybe sort of lazy Sunday afternoon viewing compared to Friday night premiere viewing.
That's true, yeah. Things you should watch with a group of friends, things you should watch on your own. Yeah.
Friends who aren't necessarily sci-fi buffs.
Yeah.
So that you can go, okay, we're here, watch District 9.
Yeah.
It's a cool sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it's got enough action and other bits and pieces that you don't really need to be into sci-fi to enjoy it.
Or maybe, things to watch on a train versus things to, watch on a huge screen.
Cinema.
Yeah. So, definitely. So that sounds good to me. They're similar to me. If you start at number one, you're going to hit this film pretty quickly. If you followed my ladder, it's sort of number 4, so to speak, on where we are currently. Snowpiercer, right? And then Don't Look Up, and then I Am Mother. So to me, I like that as a bit of a trilogy. I think Snowpiercer sort of being a futuristic, unpleasant look at the future on the train, the class struggle. Then you come into looking at something like Don't Look Up, which is much more the satire and anxiety part, and then you jump into I Am Mother, which again is in the future, a bit bleak of AI. I think that sort of like is a cool trilogy of films. If you sort of watch those three in a row, you've got like literally, if we don't change the way our attitude is now, they're possible futures.
Oh, yes. That's a good way of looking
So,
at it.
you know, like you say, if you don't look now is the way of where we are in the world right now. If we don't change our way, and we could end up on a train, or we could end up in an underground bunker being raised by AI.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the sort of coming next year, we might even be able to organise a little viewing partners. Wouldn't that be great to have a little double feature thing, like up there, like just here in Mandurah?
Yes, definitely, it'd be cool.
Manpack or Reading or someplace.
Yep,
we could get a hold of some of the films in our ladder and
play them.
Play them in order.
Play them to order. So if you've got your own ladder, let us know, or let us know what you think about our ladder. If you're following along at home, hit us up and respond on Instagram, Facebook, through our website, email, all that sort of stuff, and let us know what you think about our ladder and your ladder, and how your viewing experience has been. So, sorry, time to get into some science. Of Don't Look Up. What are you going to touch on? Is it about comets? Is it about drones? Is it about drilling for minerals? Is it about
a bit of that.
Apple and their phone technology?
Well, I mean, a little bit, but it's about space resources, because the comment in there talking about this minerals on this being worth $140 trillion or something or other struck a little memory nerve in my brain, which made me think, I remember reading a story on NASA about this sort of thing. So NASA's Hubble telescope, so this is back in 2020 that I read this. Yeah. And this was published in 2020 as well. So the Hubble telescope was taking a bit of photos of asteroids as you like, and it came across 16 Psyche, which is the name of a very large celestial body in the solar system's main asteroid belt, orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. So it's roughly 370 million kilometers away from Earth.
Right.
And it's about 226 kilometers across. So it's quite a bit bigger than this comet that is in the movie. But it's primarily made of nickel iron. So they reckon that it's probably the core of a planet that failed to form.
Right.
So the core of the Earth is basically iron.
Yep.
Molten iron, spinning around, creates a magnetic field, protects us.
Yep.
Lots of other planets tried to form and failed. And so we do have asteroids and comets floating about the place. And this one here, 226 kilometers across, it is stuffed full of minerals with a value roughly in the range of 10,000 quadrillion dollars.
Wow.
So compared to the world's economy, which in 2019 was 142 trillion.
Yeah.
It's 10,000 quadrillion is unimaginably huge.
Yes.
And so if you could, in fact, bring this into near-Earth orbit and mine it, there would be so much wealth. Basically, all of the minerals in there would become so plentiful as to lose meaning.
Yes.
And that would have a flow-on effect. Cars, which are mostly made out of metal, would be, devalued so much. Batteries would be so cheap to produce. Electronics, everything. So it's this massive thing there. It was actually discovered, this asteroid was actually discovered in 1852 by the first-time scientists. But this is the first time scientists have been able to, take a look at it, because in 1852, surprisingly, they had not yet developed space telescopes, only ordinary telescopes.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to go and have a closer look at this asteroid, because it's pretty handy to know more about this sort of thing, because the desire to mine minerals on asteroids and comets is a real thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Simply because you get this ball of nickel iron ore. It's just, it's already in space, which is the important thing. Because people sort of going, well, we can mine that. Basically, the Kimberley region of Australia is all iron.
Yeah.
You go there and you clack two rocks together and they clang like hitting two steel bars together.
Yep.
We don't have any real scarcity of iron here on on Earth. But if we want to build moon bases or space stations, and here's a really good thing, spaceships, if you build them in space, they don't have to obey the laws of aerodynamics. So you think the International Space Station, it's just this weird stuck together stick insect looking thing.
Yep.
It's got thrusters. It can move around. Like, it has to dodge stuff from time to time and maintain orbit and whatever. And it doesn't need to be the beautiful bullet shape.
Yeah.
Because it's not working against gravity, really. It's not working against wind resistance. It doesn't need to be strong in the same ways that something you're building on the Earth to launch into space has to be strong.
Yeah.
So if you're going to build yourself a space station in space, or a spaceship in space, you can build it optimally to resist the forces of acceleration due to your own thrusters and to repel radiation. You don't have to worry about atmospheric pressure crushing or wind resistance dragging bits of your hull off. You can have little poiky out, sticky aerials. Not a problem.
Sounds good.
So if you can build it out in space, awesome. But when you're going to build a great big spaceship out of space, you need a whole lot of iron and nickel and cadmium and manganese. You need an asteroid.
Yes.
So the desire to get these asteroids is not so much to bring them into Earth orbit and send them down to Earth for use, but rather to bring them to, say, the lunar orbit to build a moon base or to build a space station. Or there's various books, sci-fi books, where they hollow out an asteroid to use the asteroid itself as a spaceship.
Yeah.
Because like this thing here is 226 kilometers across. Like, that's massive.
That is huge.
If you just tunnel into that and dig out chambers, stick a few thrusters onto it, you could build a large enough colony that could be self-sustaining and have a couple kilometers of iron armor against space debris and radiation.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful. Very exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's some laws about all of this, though, of course. So one thing they have is the moon, and what I like is that the first of these space agreements, the outer space treaties, started in 1966. So before we'd gotten to the moon. Yeah, we're certainly on the trajectory for the moon, but we hadn't gotten there. And so I think everyone was sort of saying, well, we should be prepared. Yeah, come up with a few laws around what we're going to do in outer space. Because we're starting to put satellites in space. We've had Sputnik going around. We've had a couple other sort of manned orbits of the Earth, or womaned orbits of the Earth in the case of the Russian cosmonauts. And so they've got a few treaties there about the fact that space is not any one country's. You can't claim sovereignty over space or its objects. Yeah. And on the moon in 1979, they finally signed the Moon Agreement, which is part of the United Nations Charter. It entered into force in 1984. And it's part of the United Nations Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. So there is actually such a thing. There's only 18 nations that have signed or ratified the treaty, but it's kind of not terribly important because there's, 18 nations could even possibly launch something to the moon? Yeah. There's really only about 2 or 3, 4 nations that could realistically do it. China's given it a good shot. I think they've got a probe up there now, like a robot. But they want to get some, Chinese, what would they be called? Sinonauts? Is that? I don't know. I don't know what they want to call themselves. It's probably unpronounceable by unlearned people like myself. But anyway, so the Article 11 of this Moon Agreement establishes that lunar resources are not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty, by means of use or occupation, or by any other means. However, exploitation of resources is suggested to be allowed if it is governed by an international regime. Of course, the rules of such a regime have not been established. So what that means is we can't wholesale mine the moon. So there have been a few proposals to send up private ships, but the fact is nobody can do that because nobody can buy the mineral rights off anyone because nobody can claim parts of the moon. And that's quite nice. It's been signed in as being a common heritage of mankind, which is nice.
Awesome.
But yeah, so there's a lot of desire for building stuff in space, and for that we're going to need asteroids. We've only got about less than 1 gram of material back from asteroids so far. So that's the Hayabusa probes that have done it. There's another probe that's coming back with, I think it's got 60 grams of asteroid. So that's like that's like 2 shot glasses worth of asteroid stuff. So it's not really impressive. It is very difficult and very expensive to mine asteroids. The potential value though is enormous. It's really difficult because asteroids are spinning out faster than we are. So if you fly from the Earth out to where the asteroids are, because of angular momentum, you've only got the same angular momentum when you leave the Earth as the Earth.
Yes.
So you're orbiting the sun at the same speed as the Earth. And because you're getting further away from the sun, it means you're not making as many rotations of the sun as the Earth is, because you've got to go further. For every rotation, right? And so these asteroids which are out there, they're traveling about 4 or 5 kilometers a second faster than you would be if you flew from the Earth out to where the asteroids are. They would be shooting past at 5 kilometers per second, which is unintelligibly fast. You can't do anything with that. You can't catch them, you can't land them, you can't do anything. Which means that you need to get out 370 million kilometers and then have enough fuel to accelerate up an additional 5 kilometers per second, which that's assuming you can find yourself some rockets capable of getting to that speed. Go back to I think it was our passengers episode. That I talked about rockets, right? But anyway, once you got to that speed, you could catch up to an asteroid, you could grab it, you could attach rockets. You can start heading back to Earth, but now you're heading back to Earth, and as you get closer in, your relative speed to Earth again means that you have to apply huge thrust to slow this thing down so you don't just destroy the Earth.
That's right.
Because it won't stay in orbit at the speed it's traveling. Totally science fiction at this stage. I mean, using our technology, if you were to spend enough time on it and money, you could do it, but totally beyond the realms of the reasonably practical. You would be wasting so many resources to have a slim chance of getting back a tiny asteroid worth almost nothing. We will get there, I think.
I think we will. BHP and that will be interested at some point.
And I love this. One of the benefits that has been put forward by these mining companies is to save the Earth, its resources, and reduce pollution. And you're going, that's not why you want a 10,000 quadrillion dollar asteroid.
No.
You're not doing that out of some grandiose scheme to protect the Earth.
No, not at all.
You're doing that because you want 10,000 quadrillion dollars worth of material at your disposal.
And maybe you could just, in space, pollute the living daylights out of it.
Well, it is pointed out that industry running in space would allow you to do a lot of industrial processes that you just are unsafe to do on Earth. Or difficult. So there is sort of a certain amount of that. It doesn't matter if you jettison your toxic mining tailings into the sun. The sun doesn't really care. It'll deal with it.
That's true.
Unless you're living on the sun, in which case you might be listening to this in a few billion years' time, and I apologize. Anyway, that's what I really wanted to sort of talk a bit about that. This ridiculously enormous hunk of nickel iron that, if we did capture it, would make nickel iron so plentiful as to render it worthless, essentially. It would become a post-scarcity material.
Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end tonight. The next episode we're going to be looking at is a film called The Shape of Water. It came out by Guillermo del Toro. I've totally mispronounced. I know, it's got a great name.
Del Toro,
Oh, I love Del Toro. This film won an Oscar, I think, for Best Picture. I have seen it before, and I'll be going to get stuck into it again. I'm looking forward to it. It's an incredible film. If you want to keep up with us, go and check it out yourself. So please give us a 5-star rating or write a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Or just send us a friendly email to suggest a movie we should talk about.
Yeah, just reach out and say hi.
We look forward to that. You can also follow us and like us and comment again and communicate to us through the spacebrains.com website, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Yeah, what are you waiting for?
I know.
Okay, well, shape of water, trick. It's the shape of whatever you put it in.
So let us know what you think about Space Brains and what we talked about with Don't Look Up. And I look forward to talking about Shape of Water with you in a couple of weeks' time. Sorry.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye.